Hi friends, welcome back for another quiet reading of some poetry. I set up my microphone this time, so hopefully maybe get a little bit better audio quality, maybe a little bit more of that ASMR-y style. This book is my anthology of American poetry, so more than likely going to have some different poems that we're reading tonight compared to the last two videos where I think I read a couple that I doubled up on. So again, don't know how long I'm going to go for this one, but just thought it'd be fun to go through another one of my books and see what we can find. This one's set up a little bit differently than the other book. The other book was set up by actual like themes and what the poems were based on. This one is set up by the actual poets themselves. So as you can see here for Richard Henry Dana, he has his own section, and then as you move along you get more poets and just by section as opposed to by genre or what the poem is about. So let's see what we can find tonight. Gonna be a little rambly too, because that's just how I am. I can't really have silent moments with me. So let's see what we can find here. Alright, let's see. How about this one? To the fringed gentian, thou blossom bright with autumn dew, and colored with the heaven's own blue, that openest when the quiet light succeeds the keen and frosty night. Thou comest not when violets lean o'er wandering brooks and springs unseen, or columbines, or in purple dressed, nod o'er the ground bird's hidden nest. Thou waitest late and comest alone, when woods are bare and birds are flown, and frosts are and shortening days portend the aged year is near his end. Then doth thy sweet and quiet eye look through the fringes to the sky, blue, blue as if that sky let fall a flower from its cerulean wall. I would that thus, when I shall see the hour of death draw near to me, hope, blossoming within my heart, may look to heaven as I depart. Really interesting poem there. Kind of reminds me thematically of Robert Frost stopping by the whatchamacallit on a snowy evening. That kind of, we're talking about winter, and that Robert Frost poem is a very high school, this is a portent of death, because we're talking about winter and all the different allegories and stuff that goes along with it. Let's see here. Joseph Rodman Drake. These are always... This one's nice, because it actually has a little biography, so something that catches my eye always is age. So Joseph Rodman Drake only lived to be 25, so it's like, okay, well, what the heck happened here? So reading, it's nice to have the biography here instead of looking up. When I usually do the biographies, they're from Poetry Foundation or the Britannica, but it's interesting to read it here and have it just one of those nights for me, I guess. Let's see here. Edward Coate Pinkey, another one, died when he was 26. And it's one of those things that always reminds me of it's one of those things that always it makes me think, like, enjoy every moment of life, right? This person died when they were 26. Yeah. So it's one of those, when I stop, or when I read biographies like this, it's, the first thing that always catches my attention, like I said, is the age. Edward Coate Pinckey died when he was 26. Votive song. I burn no incense, hang no wreath on this thine early tomb. Such cannot cheer the place of death, but only mock its gloom. Here odorous smoke and breathing flower no grateful influence shed. They lose their perfume and their power when offered to the dead. And if, as if the Afghan's creed, the spirit may return, a disembodied sense to feed on fragrance near its urn, it is enough that she whom thou didst love in living years sits desolate beside it now, and fall these heavy tears. It's kind of a fitting poem considering he died so young at 26. George Pope Morris. Ralph Waldo Emerson. He's such a good poet. I really enjoy his work. I did one of his in one of the individual poems that I read for the channel. This one actually, The Snowstorm. It's a very good poem. Let's do this one. Fable. The mountain and the squirrel had a quarrel, and the former called the latter Little Prig. Bun replied, "You are doubtless very big, but all sorts of things and weather must be taken in together to make up a year and a sphere, and I think it no disgrace to occupy my place. If I'm not so large as you are not so small as I, and not half so spry. I'll not deny you make a very pretty squirrel track. Talents differ, all is well and wisely put. If I cannot carry forests on my back, neither can you crack a nut." Interesting dichotomy as far as, looking at the talents, obviously, of what different people can do with their own abilities and their gifts and everything. Sorry, you might hear my cat coming in and out here. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, another one I really enjoy. John Greenleaf Whittier. Let's see. Edgar Allan Poe, one of my all-time favorites. I'm planning on doing a long reading of his work for Halloween this year, so let's see if we can find a short one here at least. To One in Paradise. Thou wast all that to me, love, for which my soul did pine, a green isle in the sea, love, a fountain and a shrine, all wreathed with fairy fruits and flowers, and all the flowers were mine. Ah, dream too bright to last, ah, starry hope that didst arise, but to be overcast. A voice from out the future cries, on, but o'er the past, dim gulf, my spirit hovering lies, mute, motionless, aghast. For alas, alas, with me the light of life is o'er. No more, no more, no more. Such language holds the solemn sea, to the sands upon the shore. Shall bloom the thunder-blasted tree, or the stricken eagle soar. and all my days are trances, and all my nightly dreams are where thy grey eye glances, and where thy footsteps gleam, in what ethereal dances, by what eternal streams. Such a good poet. One of those like Van Gogh style, where Van Gogh obviously is a brilliant painter, but no one in his era really recognized that. Edgar Allan Poe is very similar, where he was, this very like dark gothic style that wasn't really appreciated in his time. Oliver Wendell Holmes. Old Ironsides. I tear her tattered ensign down, long has it waved on high, and many an eye has danced to see that banner in the sky. Beneath it rung the battle shout, and burst the cannon's roar. The meteor of the ocean air shall sweep the clouds no more. Her deck, once red with heroes' blood, where knelt the vanquished foe, when winds were hurrying o'er the flood, and waves were white below. No more shall feel the victor's tread, or know the conquered knee. The harpies of the shore shall pluck the eagle of the sea. Oh, better that her shattered hulk should sink beneath the wave, her thunders shook the mighty deep, and there should be her grave. Nail to the mast her holy flag, set every threadbare sail, and give her to the god of storms, the lightning and the gale. Old Ironsides, in case you don't know, is, it's still around, the USS Constitution, I believe, where the cannonballs that would get fired on it would bounce off, and that's how she got the nickname Old Ironsides, because the way the ship was built, which I can't get into like super technical detail about it, but basically the way the ship was constructed with its wood, the cannonballs wouldn't penetrate the hull. Jones Very, another good poet. I guess I shouldn't keep saying, "Oh, it's a very good poet." They're all good poets. I can't imagine coming on here and being like, "Oh man, this is such a bad poet." I know some people have that feeling about poetry, and I think part of the problem poetry has is everything gets so analyzed to death, basically. Especially when you get into high school, and your relationship with poetry is more just, I have to get this assignment done, or I have to read this for whatever English class. It's not conducive for appreciating the poetry itself. And then you go through and you tear it down, and you're like, oh well, this is the symbolism for this, that, and the other thing. And it's just not a very fun way to read poetry when you're just tearing it apart and dissecting it so thoroughly. Walt Whitman's a classic. I know I've done quite a few of his for the daily poems. Old War Dreams. In midnight sleep of many a face of anguish, of the look at first of the mortality wounded, of that indescribable look, of the dead on their backs with arms extended wide, I dream, I dream, I dream, of scenes of nature, fields and mountains, of skies so beauteous after a storm, and at night the moon so unearthly bright, shining sweetly, shining down, where we dig the trenches and gather the heaps. I dream, I dream, I dream. Long have they passed, faces and trenches and fields, where through the carnage I moved with callous composure away from the fallen. Onward I sped at the time, but now of their forms at night I dream, I dream, I dream. Just a brilliant, brilliant poet. One of those things again where I feel like I'm not really saying anything new. Herman Melville. Another good one. The Angler. But look, o'er the fall see the angler stand, swinging his rod with skillful hand. The fly at the end of his gossamer line swims through the sun like a summer moth, till, dropped with a careful precision fine, it touches the pool beyond the froth. A sudden the speckled hawk of the brook darts from his covert and seizes the hook. Swift spins the reel with easy slip, the line pays out, and the rod like whip, lithe and arrowy, tapering slim, is bent to a bow o'er the brooklet's brim, till the trout leaps up in the sun and flings the spray from the flash of his finny wings, then falls on his side, and, drunken with fright, is towed to the shore like a staggering barge, till beached at the last on the sandy marge, where he dies with the hues of the morning light, while his sides with a cluster of stars are bright. The angler in his basket lays the constellation and goes his ways. In harbor. I think it is over, I think it is over at last. Voices of foeman and lover, the sweet and bitter, have passed. Life, like a tempest of ocean, hath outblown its ultimate blast. There but a faint sobbing seaward, while the calm of the tide deepens leeward, and behold, like a welcoming quiver of heart pulses throbbed through the river, those lights in the harbor at last, the heavenly harbor at last. I feel it is over, for the winds and the waters surcease. Ah, few were the days of the rover that smiled in the beauty of peace, and distant and dim was the ocean that hinted redress or release from the ravage of life and its riot. What marvel I yearn for the quiet, which abides in the harbor at last, for the lights with their welcoming quiver, that throb through the sanctified river, which girdle the harbor at last, this heavenly harbor at last. Emily Dickinson, obviously a classic. I have a collection of her poetry in a book all of its own. And it is a thick book. Just a prolific poet, and she just is wonderful. Thomas Bailey Aldrich, I actually just read one of his poetry, oh my goodness. I just read one of his poems this evening. This one, actually, if you want to find the daily poem, I read this one this evening, actually. Okay. In men whom men condemn. In men whom men condemn as ill, I find so much of goodness still. In men whom men pronounce divine, I find so much of sin and blot. I hesitate to draw the line between the two where God has not. It's tough. It's an interesting, the whole judge lest not ye be judged situation, or the different angles that you see people at. You can see the bad in some people where they only see the good, and vice versa. You can only see the good and some other people can see the bad. Edward Rowland Still, the philosopher. His wheel of logic whirled and spun all day. All day he held his system, grinding it finer and finer, till it was fined away. But the chance sparks of sense and mother wit, flung out as the wheel logic spun and whirled, kindled the nations and lit up the world. Evening Song. Look off, dear love, across the sallow sand, and mark yon meeting of the sun and sea, how long they kiss in sight of all the land. Ah, longer, longer we. Now in the sea's red vintage melts the sun, as Egypt's pearl dissolved in rosy wine, and Cleopatra night drinks all. 'Tis done, love, lay thy hand on mine. Come forth, sweet stars, and comfort heaven's hearts. O night, divorce our sun and sky apart, never our lips, our hands. Little Peach. A little peach in the orchard grew, a little peach of emerald hue, warmed by the sun and wet by the dew, it grew. One day, walking the orchard through, that little peach dawned on the view of Johnny Jones and his sister Sue, those two. Up at the peach a club they threw, down from the limb on which it grew, fell the little peach of emerald hue, too true. John took a bite, and Sue took a chew, and then the trouble began to brew, trouble the doctor couldn't subdue. Paregoric too. Under the turf where the daisies grew, they planted John and his sister Sue, and their little souls to the angels flew, boo-hoo. But what of the peach of emerald hue, warmed by the sun and wet by the dew? Ah, well, its mission on earth is through. Adieu. Dark. Ella Wheeler Wilcox, another one. I really enjoy her poetry. Solitude. Laugh and the world laughs with you. Weep and you weep alone. For the saddled earth must borrow its mirth, but has trouble enough of its own. Sing and the hills will answer, sigh it is lost on the air, the echoes bound to a joyful sound, but shrink from the voicing care. Rejoice and the men will seek you, grieve and they will turn and go. They want full measure of all your pleasure, but they do not need your woe. Be glad and your friends are many, be sad and you lose them all. You are none to decline your nectared wine, but alone you must drink life's gall. Feast and your halls are crowded, fast and the world goes by. Succeed and get, and it helps you live. Succeed and give, and it helps you live, but no man can help you die. There is room in the halls of pleasure for a large and lordly train, but one by one we must all file on through the narrow aisles of pain. If I should die tonight. If I should die tonight, and you should come to my cold corpse and say, weeping and heartsick o'er my lifeless clay, if I should die tonight, and you should come in deepest grief and woe, and say, here's that $10 I owe, I might arise in my large white cravat and say, what's that? If I should die tonight, and you should come to my cold corpse and kneel, clasping my bier to show the grief you feel, I say, if I should die tonight, and you should come to me, and there and then, just even hint about payin' me that 10, I might arise the while, but I'd drop dead again. Let's see if we can get a few more in here before we call it a night. And as always, if you have any ideas for poets I should read for the channel, or poems you would want read for the channel, just leave a comment. I'm always happy to read comments and engage and look at different poets and poetry. Yeah, I'm always down for reading poetry, even if I don't understand it always. After grave vigils. After grave vigils, sunshine in the heart. After long fasting, on the journey, food. After sharp thirst, a draught with perfect good, to flood the soul and heal her ancient smart. Joy of my sorrow, never can we part. Thou broodest o'er me in the haunted wood, and with new music fillest the solitude, by but so sweetly being what thou art. He who hath made thee perfect makes me blessed, O fiery minister on mighty wings, bear me, great love, to mine eternal rest. Heaven it is to be at peace with things. Come chaos now, and in a whirlwind's rings, engulf the planets, I have seen the best. On the river. The faint stars wake and wonder, fade and find heart anew. Above us and far under, sphereth the watchful blue. Silent she sits, outbending a wild pathetic grace, a beauty strange, heart-rending, upon her hair and face. O spirit cries that sever, O cricket's level drone, O to give o'er endeavor, and let love have its own. Within the mirrored bushes there wakes a little stir, the white throat moves and hushes her nestlings under her. Beneath the lustrous river, the watchful sky o'erhead, God, God, that thou shouldst ever poison thy children's bread. Edwin Arlington Robinson, always a good one. I always come back to him. Richard Cory. Whenever Richard Cory went downtown, we people on the pavement looked at him. He was a gentleman from sole to crown, clean-favored and imperially slim, and he was always quietly arrayed, and he was always human when he talked, but still he fluttered pulses when he said, "Good morning," and he glittered when he walked. And he was rich, yes, richer than a king, and admirably schooled in every grace. In fine, we thought that he was everything, to make us wish that we were in his place. So on we worked, and waited for the light, and went without the meat, and cursed the bread. And Richard Cory, one calm summer night, went home and put a bullet through his head. Such a tough one as far as suicide and everything, especially when you think of people who might be better off. From the outside, they're better off than you are, seemingly, and you just don't know what's going on. So, and this is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, I believe. So one of those things that, check in with your friends, even if it's just a quick text or whatever, just make sure everything's doing okay. Alright, let's see if we can find one more here. Let's do this one. The Pity of the Leaves. Vengeful across the cold November moors, loud with the ancestral shame, there came the bleak, sad wind that shrieked and answered with a shriek, reverberant through lonely corridors. The old man heard it, and he heard perforce words out of lips that were no more to speak, words of the past that shook the old man's cheek like dead remembered footsteps on old floors. And then there were the leaves that plagued him so, the brown thin leaves that on the stone outside skipped with a freezing whisper. Now and then they stopped and stayed there, just to let him know how dead they were, but if the old man cried, they fluttered off like withered souls of men. I think that's all we'll do tonight. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know, like I said earlier, let me know if you have any poem preferences or poet preferences. I'd love to know what you think and read what you want me to read. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Take care and good night.